I've now started the recording. Josh, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to go back to ask a question about Pavarotti. Like when you're in that state of, because it seems like, I don't know. And Gene, let me know what your um, expert opinion is about this stuff. That though those nerves and everything come from the same place that our energy comes from, and that like heightened stakes come from. So does he? How do we like get to the ease of the system and the allowing, even when we're in that place of like of heightened stakes and knowing that we have to go somewhere? Like, how do we get that ease of
I
system? And
think that that's the practice.
yeah.
I think that's the practice. And I think that that's what he meant by courage to have a major career. That focus of mind is so extreme, and you have to hone that focus. That's why, I'm so horribly demanding on all of you. Is like, what are your means whereby, before you do anything? Your focus of mind becomes so acute that that's where you are all the time. Remember my story I told you when I went to study with my great teacher, Olga Alvarino, after college, and I was 21. And because I knew she liked me and thought I was quick, always said I was so quick. So I thought I could unburden myself to her. Like, how do you deal with stage fright? She was 76. She was a great artist. She did not want to hear it from me. She didn't want to hear that from me at all. And she cut me off by saying, if you are focused on the music, you'll have no stage fright. And that was it. Case closed. You didn't discuss it again. Now, of course, she's 76. She was a great artist. She had an extraordinary career. She could say that. And it might have been very easy for her. Might have been very easy for her to get into that state of impulse. She was the one who taught me about impulse. So we can hone it. And part of everything I'm teaching you is how do you get up there on stage, right? Or the hardest thing, I think, much harder than getting on stage, is getting up in front of your peers. I've always found that extremely challenging, right? How do you get up there, take the time to just be in the presence and be in the space? And I think we have to practice that on our own at home, right? Of just standing in your room and feeling this and feeling, see, when I do this, to just even show you, I feel huge to myself. And I also have a weird feeling like I'm standing on top of the world, looking over the entire universe. Now, I think that that's what up is, right? That's where focus of mind is found here. So when I'm in this state, and so you cultivate that. You have to cultivate it so that when you get up in front of, audience or peers, audience, as I said, I feel is easier, anonymous. But your peers, you take that time for yourself, that moment. And it's not a moment like this. Going in, trying to sense, trying to feel what you see in my body cuts everything off. It's this moment of just being. Your heart will still beat like a rabbit, maybe, right? It will, because every performer does, with very, very few exceptions. And usually they are not particularly compelling performers, right? So that'll be there, but then it will slow down because you'll be getting into that rhythm of flow. Josh, any thoughts about that?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We have some exercises similar that Sita gives us, which is like with being with the stillness exercise, which is what you're talking about, where we stand and we just take in being seen, and we take that in and use that to inform. We take it in, get our systems acclimated to it, breathe into that, and then have that up energy to use that to our
explain
advantage.
Explain the means whereby of that.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Either Josh or somebody else, anyone who wants to jump in. So run me through it as though I were your student and, I was going up on stage, or I shared with you what I shared with Olga when I was 21. So how would you guide me through that? Josh, go ahead.
Okay. I would say to stand, feel the ground coming up beneath the feet, um, to allow yourself to be breathed as the psoas impulse is in the psoas. Psoas initiates the diaphragm to activate, and then the air moves up through the larynx and out. Um, and to allow yourself to be breathed and to be in flow, not to plan. How we talked about the last class, that was big for me. It's not planning.
Mhm.
To allow yourself to be in the flow before you begin.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I would say that that's almost the starting point, right? Of seeing presence. Today I got an email. There's a person, Sue Bernhardt, and Sue is, I've known Sue for a very long time because when I was in Alexander training, one of our trainees, we were 4 people in our class, was a dancer, and she danced with Sue's company. Sue was a Jose Limon dancer, and now she teaches choreography and dance at Purchase, at the Conservatory of Purchase. And I remember seeing her on stage because we all went to support Beth. Beth was in her Sue's, company's concert. And even though Beth was an Alexander trainee, she was very lumbering. We thought, because she was a big girl, very lumbering on stage. And Sue was like this beam of light, just this beam of light. And then she was my volunteer, my 3rd year of training. And she had a terrible, this is what I mean by it doesn't matter what is awry in our body. She had a horrible scoliosis. And you never in a million years would have ever noticed that on stage. Not a bit. And so I would put hands on Sue and I would say, Sue, just dance and I'll be behind you. But she's taking my little Monday night class. And today she said, she wrote and she said, so enjoyed the allowing hands meditation. It was amazing how it instantly freed my breath. I'm also enjoying playing with allowing eyes when walking and dancing, whereas I'm often aware of radiating into the space. There's an honesty in allowing the space in that doesn't diminish presence, but rather allows presence because one is actually authentically present. Now, isn't that pretty amazing? This is Sue anyhow. And I wrote her that. I mean, the image in my mind of her dancing where it was just pure light. I'll never forget that, right? She was a beam of light and there was like energy all around her. It just shimmered in space where, my colleague in training, Beth, she was Beth and she was dancing her body. Where Sue is just a shimmering thing. But I think that's ties in with what we talked about last week about what I'm noticing with the students, right? If you go in to do something like this called trying to sense, trying to see, trying to figure out if you're right, you disconnect from your body. But the moment you're here, all those inner muscles engage. So I would add that onto when you get on stage is what does it mean to be fully present, right? To be fully present with what is. I have always said, presence is seeing the presence that fills the room. That's what she means by allowing eyes, is that you have allowing eyes and you see the density of space that fills the room. If you just do that one thing, you will be in the whole mechanism, the whole organism. It's not you. That's what you have to keep putting into your heads. It is not about you getting up there on stage and it's your body. What we see in something like Pavarotti is that the music is so completely moving through him. So it's never, us getting here and then trying to fix us. We're here. And when we're here, you don't feel like you're inside yourself anymore. And you're instantly in time. You should just practice walking around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just being in flow. Because that doesn't end. That's not something you pull out of the hat when you get on stage or get up to do Seymour. You live that. That's that inner alignment. That's time. Think about baseball players when they're in the outfield, right? They're not just standing there. They couldn't possibly, right? But they're just so exquisitely coordinated and aligned. They're in just this state of poise all the time. They're in the state of flow. Poise is a technological term, a physiological term, meaning motion within stillness. So your muscles are continually doing this. That's why they can, you know, catch things that are unbelievable, right? So that's really what we're talking about. But let me just, I want you just to you to contemplate for a second, then maybe I'll send it over to you. So I think we're all discovering this. We put an allowing hand on our foreheads and we feel how it stimulates the inhalation, right? Because you're literally, we're going to do this in a moment, working with this inner stretch, this inner elasticity. Today I was thinking, I want to talk a little bit more about elasticity, because think about that word, elasticity. That's the realm of the body, is to be elastic, right? But think about that in context metaphorically with our minds, about how we can be in this elastic, resilient, fluid state. But anyhow, she says, and Sue, because of her, Limon, Jose Limon, that idea of radiation is, I think, very much part of that. She says, where I'm often aware of radiating into the space, there's an honesty in allowing the space in. So that's what we're talking about, right? That ability to see the depth of the space in this way. Honesty in allowing the space in that doesn't diminish presence, but rather allows presence. One is actually, but rather allows presence. One is actually authentically present. I gave a little one-on-one to a student. I guess he's a young Alexander teacher. He wanted to do some guitar with me and other things. And he said that after one of the classes, he went in to sing, and all of a sudden this thing came out of him. And he said to himself, I wrote it down, that's my true voice. That's who I am. That's the essence of life. So it's exactly what Josh is saying too. The essence of life is coming from that place. Yeah, Jay.
When I was in high school when I trained in dance at Ballet Hispanico, a big part of our curriculum was Limon. And that when you're being trained in it as a dancer, everything else about dance that's like all about counts goes away and the focus becomes the breath and breathing in the moment. And I think, like, looking back, I never realized that so much of that was about engaging the psoas.
Yes.
And having that flow on stage.
That's
but in the dance world, it's so hard to articulate that the way that we are.
Right. That's wonderful. Yeah, that I'd forgotten that you had a lot of that training in you. Anything else from anyone? So let's instantly, we're going to do some of our stretches, but I want to talk about this ability of us to experience elasticity. So just as you're seated there, just sort of take your hands and sort of do this, right? You're drawing them apart from one another and just feel like you're having a taffy pull. Now, this is pure imagination. This is coming out of the psoas, right? So see, if you're trying to show it, you'll try to do something, but look at what I'm doing, right? Feels like you're stretching something between your two hands, and you'll feel how everything gets stretched. So that's elasticity. Take your time with that. Feel the goo. Majita, that's terrific. Feel the goo, because when you can feel it like that, your audience can see it. Don't look in to try to see it. That's great, Kyle. Really see it stretching between your hands, right? Or you can have your hands in yarn, right? You know how they do? And then just stretch it out like that. Feel that stretch. It'll make you smile because you're using imagination, right? So that's it. What if we then take these elastic hands and do our, this is something else too. Maybe you can't do this in class, but you can sort of think of it. You want to get yourself back into a state of flow and time. You can do a little bit of your pressure work and then you release. You trigger reflexive inhalation. So you have a little bit of inward pressure and you release. And you feel the inner expansion of your ribs into your hands. Of course, that's your intercostal muscles, but you're feeling this inner expansion of your ribs into your hands. Pressure and release. It's a profound exercise to do because not only does it put you back in time, but it also teaches you a lot about breathing and body. So if you find, and where you are, right? If you find nothing happens, like, something's supposed to happen here, then you sort of figure out what's going wrong to you. You're probably most likely looking in, anticipating, waiting for something to happen, and in so doing, closing your throats, locking your larynx. See, so it's a constellation of stuff that goes sort of awry, right? And so something as simple as this helps us understand how do we stay as an open channel, an open vehicle. How do I witness my mind? Am I looking in, trying to see, trying to feel, which closes me off? Same thing, you can do sternum, inner pressure and release. Feel how it stimulates the air to come in through nostrils and larynx. And you also feel from the inside, underneath your sternum, it'll move forward, which is a beautiful feeling to feel underneath the sternum doing this. It's like a beating heart, right? I mean, it sort of does this. So just doing pressure work like this, elastic pressure work, gives you an understanding of being breathed. So I'm going to ask Josh again, earlier when you talked about standing there and being breathed, how did you interpret that for yourself?
Being breathed, well, there's a few things that come to mind. One of the things is the drinking in of the air around us, and the diaphragm being ignited by the psoas, like a vacuum. It activates it. That activation brings the air in, so we don't actually have to make ourselves breathe. The diaphragm is doing the work for us as it vacuums the air in. And then up energy is on the exhalation is up energy. So as the diaphragm moves upward, it moves the air up and out. So we never have to worry about breathing ourselves. We are being breathed.
Beautiful. And also even to go further than that and saying, I mean, that's exactly right. But really, what is the relationship I have with what is outside of me? That is your inspiration, right? That's presence. That's your creativity of the ability to open up and have something fill you. How many of you think of that when you're working with, if you're doing a breathing practice, right? That is really profound for you because it shifts something in your whole brain. It shifts something in terms of your art to have that sense of I can open and feel something fill me. So it's not objective. Every time you can be subjective, be subjective. You know, everything is art for us, right? Looking at anything is art, right? Looking at the microphone is art. So you just always, always, always have to do that. And what I've been saying to you the last few weeks is don't forget the inhalation, because I see you doing exercises very well, but then you don't inhale, right? And I understand that we're always saying you don't inhale, don't try to breathe, but you have to witness and appreciate that you're getting this life force filling you. That is the most direct through line to your creative unconscious. Your ability to witness being breathed without interference. That is the through line. So when you can witness that, boy, you've opened up something in your minds. And that just keeps rooting itself in you and rooting itself in you. So we have this elasticity. I want to see you do it one more time. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to watch you all do it to see how you're doing with it. And then we'll go on. Be careful of looking back. George, you're sort of pulling the head back to look into something. People, if there's one thing, that's beautiful, Hannah. One thing that's beautiful, everyone, that I really want you to focus on is stopping yourselves. It's gotten to be a habit, and I get it for sure. Stopping yourself from doing something like this, looking in, because you can't see anything, right? We think we can, but we're just living in our heads. We're not being fully present. We're not here inviting something to come up. Hannah, those are amazing allowing hands. Just amazing allowing hands. Yes, that's terrific, people. Right. So inward pressure and then releasing and feeling the spontaneity. Again, here's our word, spontaneity. Isn't that what we all long for? We long for spontaneity. So when you feel your body being spontaneous, we understand spontaneity, right? Careful of dreaming. I see some of you drifting away. Don't drift. Be present, fully active, fully present, fully invigorated. Pressure work, sides of the ribs, and releasing, feeling the amazing power of the diaphragm to suck in air, right? I mean, it's really powerful. And just feel all that coolness. And once again on the sternum. Ooh, Nick, that's really great. That's really good. Be careful of the looking in. Jay, you're looking in just a teeny tiny bit, and so therefore it's tightening the whole mechanism, right? So you have to be full on, right? Just completely centered, completely there. You know, the Buddha, right? You just have to be totally like that all the time. Cultivate it. You'll smile when it's right. You just will. You know, Alexander talked about direction into the forward, into the cheekbones, but you're going to open up the back of the throat. So that's really excellent. I want to come back and do, speaking of this being breathed and elasticity and things, ways that you can play. So last week, I think we did the foot flexion, right? Did we? Oh, yes. Yes, we did last week. So what I want to show you is, again, because we didn't record this last week, because I did not record this last week, but I want to show you the difference between a doing of something and when you're doing it from the psoas, from the Dennis Rodman, the up and the down at the same time. Thank you so much, Kenny, for that amazing picture, amazing photo. So you can all see my feet. So I have to tell you, when I'm lying here, just put this here for now. When I'm lying here at this point, my psoas, see, this is what's going on in my body. This is what's going on, and it's a tensile strength, so it's not just rigid. There is continual movement. It is affecting my diaphragm. So I lie here and I feel so expanded in my rib cage. And if I put my hands on my ribs, I feel it all open. I feel it open all the way up underneath the armpits. I think that's just an excellent practice to play with, is just lying there and feeling this hollowness through your body, but this extraordinary expansion of the rib cage, because you've been working so well on getting the strength in the body. So now we go to the feet. And what I want to say is that when we do things as a doing, right, a pushing like that, it becomes very isolated. So if I were to dissect what is going on for me when I just react to something a teacher asks me to do, I feel a contraction in the calf muscles and I feel I'm pulling. So I feel like I'm doing a movement as compared to witness state, getting out of my way. Here I go, permitting the psoas to lengthen all the way down the back of the leg to flex the foot like this. And it feels like there's no limit. At the same time, it makes me breathe. And I feel coolness in the back of the throat, way in the back of the throat, behind my eyes. And why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it do that? Because the psoas is intimately connected to the diaphragm. So when you're doing any movement that you are doing, that you are asked to do, you figure out doing it from the psoas, and your teacher will be if you spontaneously inhale and feel stretch and elasticity through the whole of your body. I don't know how much of me you can see, but we'll pretend you can see a lot. Here I go. I'm going to do from the psoas again, this flexion. And it just expanded me. The nature of the body is lengthening and widening in one beat. And that is inner elasticity, inner stretch, inner opening. So I was working with Damla the other day. She wanted to do some exercises, some that her brother told her to do to strengthen her abdominals. And of course, you know me, I said, don't do those. You're not helping yourself, you're hurting your back. But anyhow, then she had one, she showed me, I don't know if you can see me here, but it was the lifting of the pelvis or something, or rocking the pelvis forward. She was doing it like this. She was doing something with her pelvis, which is absolutely correct if you're taking that language of moving your pelvis. You would naturally do that, but you have to understand, what is the pelvis? It's attached to the spine. Where are the psoas muscles? Psoas muscles influence every single major muscle group of the body. And you can't move bones, right? You don't move your bones, it's muscles that move bones. So here's the difference, here's a nice doing. As soon as I do that, I feel contraction through my abdominal area, my pelvic area. I feel contraction here. But if I were to take that, stand back and permit my psoas to do it, I breathe. And I love it because I feel so much coolness in the back of my throat. I mean, it just feels so pleasurable to do something like that. It's like there's no limit. Big smile on my face, not trying to smile. It's just that happens because you're opening up all those tissues. You know, it's what we talk about, the inner smile. You have to have the inner smile in voice work, right? The inner smile. What does that mean? It just means you're in this elasticity. So I'm going to do this lengthening. See, it's a lengthening, correct? So if I lengthen like this, it subtly brings up my pelvis. And of course, you all know the one we did, but we didn't record it, so I'll do it again. That permitting the psoas. Once again, cool breath, cool air. And there I am. I'm hanging from psoas diaphragm. I'm suspended in space, suspended. We talk about knee forward direction, but you have to remember knee forward is not here. Knee forward, the way the psoas works is down the back of the leg and out through the knees. And then it tells me to release back down. There's one more I want to show you. I'm not sure that we did. Maybe we did. And that's the head lift. Kyle, I know you and I have done it, but have the rest of you done it with me? Again, our lesson of the day is lengthening, elasticity and lengthening. So I have one leg up, one leg down. Allowing hands, allow your head to rest in your allowing hands. We're going to lift the head like this. And then it releases back down. Once again, it triggers my inhalation. I feel coolness. I'm listening, listening, listening to inner time. The key is, if you were to do something like that, you hear it in my voice. I have now successfully locked my larynx. I'm not kidding you. I wasn't trying to load the dice. If you pull your chin down, you will lock your larynx and you will not breathe. But if you are thinking of this elasticity like this, do you hear me? There's no contraction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is not me yanking with my hands. It is permitting that amazing inner elasticity. My hand is just sort of a support. You know, it's just supporting me. It's helping everything stay open. So you can feel every movement is coming out of this. It really is. Every movement is coming out of this place. Time and flow and elastic stretch. Any observations from anyone about that? What did you feel in your own body as I did it? Jay, I have to tell you that is the most beautiful alignment as I look at you. It's completely like that. Beautiful. Anything that you sensed? Carolyn, were you trying to do it with me?
No, I was just, I felt movement here.
Ah,
That's what I was doing right now. I just I felt something moving
oh,
here.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I mean, it's hard for us to comprehend that, but you've got this big old diaphragm in here, right? When you're in a lengthening elastic stretch like that, it triggers that diaphragm, it expands you. Don't get confused with this. Yes, in exhalation, we're doing the hiss, right? We're doing our whispered counts of 10. That diaphragm is relaxing, it's moving up, into its dome, which is the home, right? The relaxation phase of the diaphragm. When you demand from the diaphragm for power, for sound, for intensity, it assumes this, I just don't want you to get confused by this, but it does assume the conditions for inhalation, even though you're exhaling. So that's what keeps you expanded. So when we're doing something like, which I hope you will now incorporate into every bit of movement that you do, any exercises that you do, has to come from the psoas. How do you experience that? Do you feel the lengthening stretch? I do that with people in lifting weights, has to come from the psoas. So you start to feel this elasticity through the body the whole time. So when you're doing like the leg, the flexion, you're stimulating the diaphragm, so you're expanding internally, widening, as well as lengthening, and you trigger inhalation. Other observations from this? Yeah, Sina.
It really felt like, we talk all the time about up and how it's sometimes the sensation of like floating, almost like floating off the ground, and it was like your head was kind of, that was the sensation I had. It was like floating up rather
That's exactly
than
right.
like pushing or pulling it up.
That's exactly right. I am just awestruck, Nick, everyone, George. I'm awestruck, Daphne, Majita, as I look at you, Hannah. What is going on? All I am seeing is the most perfect alignment I could ever ask for. See how this stuff gets transmitted? It's very bizarre, isn't it? But that is so beautiful to see you like that. There's elegance in that, and there's ease in that. So it's not like you're trying to be tall and sit up straight. I feel lots and lots of flow of you. Nick, that's wonderful too. Any other observations from anyone? Josh, that's beautiful. Really beautiful. Yeah, Majita.
I had also noticed in Sita's like
I'm not
acting.
hearing you so well. Can you all hear Majita? Yeah.
Let me close my window.
I've got to get a little external speaker too.
Hello? Hello?
We can hear you. It's just quiet.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's good. That's fine.
There's something covering your mic, maybe?
What do you call it? I was saying that similarly in Sita's Actors Gym, I felt that something that I've been noticing, because now you're doing essentially like the hip bridge, is that because a lot of athletic like training and exercises that we've learned as people, I know for me was like in high school sport or like school sport and that kind of like competitive arena. And there the focus is like speed or how many you can do in this much time. So then I don't, like I catch myself now, but it's really cool because it's happening more and more often of being like, oh, okay, where am I infusing up? Like how much am I letting like my body go up as opposed to making myself go up? But now when you're doing that, I was realizing like I've never thought of it for like hip bridges. I keep thinking of it like when I'm running or when I'm lifting weights, like trying to focus on that. But things where it's like body weight is your muscle and is like, you know, essentially the weight that you're working with. That really made me think how much I need to remember that I don't actually, it'll make the exercise easier if I'm not also fighting my own body to raise it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. I think that is exactly what happens. I mean, you become, this is what we've been talking about. We become so attuned to the quality that happens from the psoas, and it feels so pleasurable because, I mean, at least for me, that feeling of elasticity, I just think is incomparable. I love that. And, you know, it makes me think, as I said earlier, you know, if that's what we're experiencing ourselves, doesn't that, in a way, I mean, it would seem logical that it would, my theory, no one else's, I guess, but it would seem logical that that would portend good things for our fluidity of mind, our improvisational state, this ability to be elastic,
Yeah.
you know. Does anyone want to throw out an exercise to me or an Actors Gym thing where we could play with the psoas? Anyone have one? Not too complex? Yeah, George.
Yeah, I think that I don't know what Sita calls them exactly, but the V up or the like where I think she calls them toe touches, where it's about sort of extending, so you're lying flat on your back and you extend your arms and your legs out in opposite directions, and then the lengthening brings you into a lift. And then you sort of you're lifted until, or you are lifted until you, there's a, what does she call it,
Anyone want to show me?
I'm in a skirt.
Kyle, did you want to show me?
Yeah, I can demonstrate it.
Okay.
Make sure you can see me while I do it. Hold on. You all see me?
Yeah, that's nice. Great.
So it's here. And then you go up, she says, until
like the lower stomach, right before it would pop out, or you would start to grip in the abdominals. So there's like a scoop from the lengthening of the psoas, and then you lengthen back down. I can't go as high yet as some people can with the toe touches, but it's lengthening away. So then it comes up like that.
I'll try it on me. So one wants to be first extremely careful. I don't know if I told you this, but I gave out one-on-one with a woman, and she told me she had this Broadway teacher, and he made them. Did I tell you this? Maybe I told you this last week. I was so appalled. She had written this to me, and I had written her back, and then she showed me how he would say you'd have I forget how much weight in each hand, 2 pound weights, 3 pound weights or something. And you'd lie down and you'd, bring the weights like this. And that was supposed to strengthen the diaphragm. So the very first thing I said to her, you know, she wasn't lying down, she was doing it. And I had written this to her, and then she showed it to me, and I said, but you see, it's just what I wrote to you. If you are reaching your hands up over your head like that, you are doing exactly what you're showing me you're doing. You're thrusting your rib cage forward and therefore out of alignment. So number one, you have to be extremely careful when you do anything like that, that you, Kyle, I do have to say, as much as I love you, and I do, as you know, I did feel that you did arch a bit. See, and so if you're arching, perfection of the thing. So if you're here like that, which is already not wonderful, right? Because we're sort of like this. So if you're doing this and bringing all of this forward, now you may not be doing this. Let me just pull this down. So if you're doing this, what do you feel when you do this? So when I do this, I'm not sure I can do it in any way. I guess that's not so bad. But I'm still feeling like I'm pulling up here. Any of you feel that as you do it?
Yeah, I do feel like when we're like splaying out a little bit just from getting my arms up above my head.
So then if I bring myself up, I guess I can do this, but Manzi, does it pull me in here? Does no one else feel pulled there?
Gene, so like the language Sita uses and that Kyle used, is that like we're lengthening our arms and the leg?
Yeah, but look what you just did. You pulled up to lengthen, it's called something to lengthen your arms. Where do your arms come from?
I guess my ribs?
No.
Your psoas?
What do you know? Yes. You have to remember some of these things, right? Right? Nope, that's still pulling up, Kyle.
Damn.
So your arms, right? Your arms come off your back. Psoas muscles, you know, I do this with pianists all the time, right? And musicians, people that have tendonitis. So, or clearly, you know, great athletes do everything well. Psoas muscles are considered both a back muscle and an abdominal muscle. Why they're considered a back muscle is that they influence the latissimus dorsi, and they influence the trapezius, both of which go into your arms. So when we do, if you were to just put a hand here, remember, what is our guidance that we give? How many of you thought of this when you did that movement? What's the guidance? Fingertips lead the arm into length, right? Fingertips lead, no, Nick, there you used your shoulder joint to do it. Fingertips lead the arm like this. Look at my hand. Does that look beautiful? I mean, you know, I'm not doing it in a self-aggrandizing way, but I think that there's a beautiful Hannah. There's a power of grace in the being, in the arm. It doesn't even seem like my arm. That you can, if you can wiggle your digits, then you know your arm is coming off your back. And I could stay here for 10 years. Beautiful, Jay. Don't look in, stay out. Right, stay present. then you would permit, as though Jean were outside of you, taking your fingertips and raising your arm. Excellent, Hannah. Beautiful, George. That's it, exactly. Now here you are. Now if you can feel lengthening a stretch through here, you know you're right, and you're coming out of that, the psoas. How many of you feel that? Yes. You could stay forever and hear how it doesn't affect the voice, right? Everything seems very free, and then you release in the shoulder, the elbow. So you want elegance, right? You want this beautiful fluidity as though you're boneless. Fingers touch the earth. Kyle, that's terrific. Beautiful, Carolyn, right. You're just, let's play with that for a second. Touch the air, right? Touch it, create, shape, move. Ooh, and enjoy it, right? You're shaping, molding, crafting the air. Exactly. So then let's do something very challenging. We're gonna lift the arms up, right? As you're seated. But if we do this, we'll throw ourselves out of alignment, and you hear it in my voice instantly. I worked from here. But what if we're going to try to do this in the best way we know how? So we'll use some tools. We'll say that we're moving up through the air, the backs of our hands. Then there's Master Puppeteer above us that's taking our fingertips and holding on to our fingertips. Beautiful, Sina. And we're just dangling down there as though we're hanging. We are just hanging from somebody who's holding onto our fingertips. Now you can probably feel that instantly you've opened up your rib cage. How many of you feel that? Yes? No? Yeah, beautiful, Daphne, yes. And then shoulders, elbows, wrists. So can we try it in a much more compromising position, which is when whilst you're lying down. Much harder, I feel it instantly. You know where I feel it? In my jaw and throat. I think it's a very difficult position. I think maybe if your hands are here and you're resting, it might be better. Then as you come up, this would be where I would be. I'm still feeling it, unless I have my hand under my head, I'm still feeling it in my throat. How many of you don't feel it in your throat when you do it? Do you want to do it now? Do you have room on the floor to do it? If you don't, I mean, we're all in teeny tiny spaces, I know. I just would like to sort of see you do it if you can. Daphne, is there space for you or not? If there's not, don't worry about it.
I think I can make space. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see me.
Don't worry at all. I'll see enough of people doing it.
Okay.
It's tricky, and we want to do everything that we can to improve our voices, right? And not throw our diaphragms out of alignment by arching the ribs or locking the larynx as we come up. Jay, that's terrific. Sina, that's quite nice. Now, Sina, what I feel as I look at you there is that you're contracting your abdominals. Would you agree with that?
Jean, that was kind of what my question was. Like when I'm on the floor, and I think it's because the ground's up below us. So to bring I can like feel the air in a way a lot more like experientially, like bringing my hands up here, but on the ground, it just feels, it's hard to feel supported by the ground doing that. And so to really like elongate enough to like not just do a crunch and to like elongate enough to go into the movement, it feels like I have to use my abdominals.
That's exactly what I saw. Yeah. And that's exactly what I experienced in myself. Even if I did it, you know, minusculely and from the psoas, I still felt a lot of pull here, right?
Uh-huh.
Anyone else feel that? Yeah, Jay.
You go, Hannah.
I was gonna say, aren't we supposed to, I mean, you can't not engage your abs.
Yes, you can.
What?
If you are using your here's the rule of the body.
Oh no.
Here is the rule of the body. If you are using your outer abdominals, the rectus abdominis muscle, tightening them, crunches, you will cut off your psoas and the psoas will shorten. If you are using your psoas to do everything that you are doing, you're lengthening, you will tone the rectus abdominis muscle. So when people do a lot of crunches and harden their abdomen in a very false understanding of what quote unquote core musculature is, they lose the flexibility of the psoas. The psoas should be red muscle fiber, which is lean and rhythmic muscle fiber, but it can actually change muscle fiber and become white and bulky muscle fiber and shorten and sometimes even atrophy.
Jean, I've been doing so many ab workouts. Help!
Right. That's why I always say when we do our breathing work, you do the massage, because if you are lengthened, see, it's like working with my dear Jamie, who's a dancer and a Pilates instructor. And, Pilates, they tell you to push the belly button into the back, trying to get this backing up of Alexander, right? But people who do that are very constricted and contracted. But when you work like we're working to get that stretchy, sinewy, rhythmic length, then you become gaunt, right? You lie down on the floor and you sink in. You're not trying to sink in. It's just your psoas muscle has so lengthened that it lengthens the lumbar spine. Terrific. So you have, I have been this way since day one because everything had to do with my performing, right? Everything I ever did had to do with my singing. So I was on the lookout for the tiniest little thing that would tighten me. I wouldn't do it, right? Anything that I would feel would tighten me, tighten my throat, tighten my this, I wouldn't do. I just became so hyper, and I think you all will too, hyper aware of what is going on. I know that there is a thing, right, about the body beautiful, right, that is common. I find it off-putting when I see somebody on stage, a guy, talking about men now, right, or built up, and because they look so tight to me that they don't look free and fluid and responsive, and I love that. Like baseball players, for years they did nothing but stretches. Then powerlifting came in the 90s and everyone started getting injured.
But Gene, why does everybody on Broadway have a six-pack? I tell Kyle.
I hate it. Yeah, and that's probably why they sing so poorly.
Hollywood.
Right? I mean, somebody, who was it that went to Tootsie? Somebody went to Tootsie.
Kyle and I got tipsy at Kyle got tipsy at
Tootsie, but it was not good. It was not.
And wasn't it great?
What?
How about that singing? Singing, that was some of the best singing I've heard in Broadway in a long time, right? Really wonderful. So you have to be very careful. Sina, that was a wonderful understanding of what was going on.
Yeah, I did it a second time while you were explaining it, because I was like, if I have Gene's voice, I think it'll allow me to have a sense my psoas a little bit more. And I feel like I felt the up a little more, but there was still a point where I was I don't know if this word's helpful, elongated and I was in the air, and then it was like to kind of allow, because I hadn't really felt my abdominals yet, and it's supposed to be a workout, but at the same time I was like, if I don't kind of tense a little bit here, I'm just gonna fall on the ground and not have felt anything. So it's the balance is so, there's a sweet spot that I just
and it's also knowing what you can do and what you cannot do to keep your length, right? It really comes down to that.
Yeah,
you're learning something very, you're learning about how is the body used. And a lot of things that we do are not in the best, what we would call the best use of the body. So, if you do something like I showed you like this, you hear where, I keep losing my headrest, you hear where my voice is still free, correct?
Yeah.
Right? So that's total freedom. I could stay here forever. That's what the psoas feels like.
Right.
Right? I could stay here forever. I could do, Peter Sellers, the great director, right? Opera director. We used to call him the Harvard Wunderkind. Well, he's not so much a Wunderkind anymore, is he like 50? But he always had his singers lying down singing, all these opera singers, every production he did, and they were very magical productions. But, he always did it, and the Metropolitan Opera does the same thing now. The directors have singers doing all these things, lying down, singing. But it's because you have to be able to have access to the diaphragm like this. Right? So that is how you always have to think. Your instrument is your voice and your body as an actor. You cannot do, of course I'm going to say this, right? Because I'm a voice person, but you can't do anything that's going to hurt your voice. You can only do things that are going to keep you exquisitely free and open and responsive. Right? And that may not be something that you would, Sue Bernhardt, the wonderful dancer, the first part of her email was that she was really having problems with her voice. And because she said, maybe it's because I move so much when I teach, but I'm finding that my voice gets very fatigued and very tired and very hoarse. And dancers notoriously have very small voices, right? Because they're very held often, not the great ones, but oftentimes. So, that's not our realm. Our realm is a body that is fluid and free and sinewy, as I love that, right? Something that is extremely elastic, and a voice that's on breath. We've been watching, like everyone, the famous Netflix, right? So, just going through all this stuff. Oh, here is an old Peter Sellers movie called The Wrong Arm of a Law. And it is so great because it's real British. These great British actors, so phenomenal British character actors, and real British sort of slapstick. And, Peter Sellers with that insane body, insane comedic ability and ear to do all these different dialects. So we watched that. It was hysterically and wonderfully funny. Then we saw this other one. Oh, look, here's a World War II movie called A Bridge Too Far. Again, it's got these great old British actors. Olivier is in it. One of my old favorites, Dirk Bogarde. And then we've got a couple American actors who just are so horrible in comparison to the Brits. But I was watching them speak, right? Dirk Bogarde speak, and his timing, he did a lot of Pinter and really extraordinary. His timing and his body being breathed. Those are lessons to watch. That was great. And Olivier, who didn't have a huge part, but when he would speak, it was so beautiful. And there was no, I was catching everyone on, when in disgrace, the trying to emphasize, the trying to act. They don't do any of that. And then you see the contrast with the, sort of grade B, like Ryan O'Neal, and it's just like, oh my God, what a dreadful, horrible actor he is. He's terrible. It's so embarrassing. But, you start to understand what is in play here. So, any other observations from doing that? So the bottom line is you have to watch, to my mind, a few things. You have to watch anything that contracts you here, that stops your flow of breath, which is why when we do anything that you are doing, if you're doing it from the lengthening psoas, you will breathe. It will trigger reflexive inhalation, and that will be your teacher. You will feel coolness in the back of the throat, and that will be your teacher. You have to watch that. You have to watch anything that is going to throw your diaphragm forward like that out of alignment, because then you can't speak. And then, of course, anything that's going to tighten you here and tighten you in the belly. Any thoughts about that, anyone? Do I just dash cold water, throw cold water on everything that you've learned?
No, I think I just sometimes forget that and this is what happens when you do a show, is it has to be repeatable, and for it to be free and up makes it that every night. You're not going to hurt yourself. That's something I
That's
just
exactly right.
in a lot of ways with the work.
Right. And, you know, my hope for you all is that you have nice long runs. You know, if you're all non-equity, you may have get to show that you can do like I did for 3 months, 10 shows a week. And then you really know if you have technique, right? You really know that. And you get to experiment all the time, but it's just such a good way of learning, basically. Anything else from anyone about that? So important when you're doing anything, adapt it to you. No one knows, right? You're in a big enough class. No one will ever know. Find your way in. Think how creative you're going to be if you do that. You know, understand what is the starting point of all exercise, all movement. It's head, neck, spine relationship. It's psoas diaphragm. Yeah, is that Nick hand raised or not? No.
No.
All right, let's do a little standing and let's do some of our voice breath work. So, yes, Josh was absolutely right. Earth rises up, you stand there in front of your peers on stage and you sense how Earth can move you. I think it's just, you know, if you take a moment like that and just feel your length, right? You know, again, use our Dennis Rodman, right? That up and that down, the goose, Josh's favorite goose, right? Or Wale's favorite goose, right? And we're just here. And you're just feeling that sense of freedom. You're in always a state of flow. Let's go right in to voiced counts of 10. And I'm going to unmute you so I get to hear. So here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Beautiful. And stop. That is the best I've ever heard. Josh, that is absolutely the best I've ever heard you do that. There is nothing in the throat. Nothing. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it was being in the in that flow and being out, as being in the space that I'm in and allowing it to come to me as opposed to me coming to it. It just allowed it to flow out.
It is so beautiful. Let's do this. So. Let me do the long one. So. That's pretty good. Pretty good. But I still hear a little of this, right? So. So, trying to find the rhythm in the throat a little bit instead of the famous Josh Thomas, that thing, right? You know, so. Never forget being bounced, because the being bounced tells you you're in your psoas, right? Something external to you bounces you up. That's how you have to think, work, right? It's not you, it's something outside of you doing chada pa pa pa, yappa pita pa, yata ta nice. And pause for just a second. This is terrific. George, be careful that you don't go off someplace and make it less dynamic. You have to be straight on, man. And you just have to be right here. And that's your practice, everyone, is just being right here and getting bounced 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 and getting bounced. See, that's all breath. That's SOAS diaphragm. It is not us trying to bounce ourselves or feel for something. That's not it. It is very dynamic. But Majita, that was absolutely wonderful. Hannah, that was wonderful to see your bias, Jay. That was just, there was such an aliveness of something doing you. Really keep that and ponder it, ponder it, ponder it. Something does me, I don't do me. Something does me, right? Something is moving me. Let's do it one more time. So we do it like this. So. Yes. What you're experiencing is time, right? We're just getting pulsed. We're getting drummed. What George was saying about the drummer, that you're starting to understand the up of time, the up that has to exist in every single word you say. That's not put on. That is just a result, an end result of being in this connection. So you see, in a sense, that's why I'm saying everything you do has to be, how do I figure this out, coming from that inner stretchy length. If we do it does you. It does you. You don't go trying to feel something out. That's all it is. So on our mums. That is excellent. That is a joy. That really, that was going through my own body, all of you. That was a joy. I want to now go into our whispered ah, because that is crucial, right? How do we open? It feels so wonderful to open. You feel all that coolness get pulled right into you. And then you see it engages diaphragm. So as diaphragm, it just does. And then you feel the great suction of the diaphragm. So we open, it engages diaphragm. Out here, we hear this thing we called whispered ah. So let's try it. Enjoy the beautiful coolness coming into your throat. One more. What I love about seeing you do it is the beauty in your eyes. As I see you all doing it from behind your eyes, Hannah, that was terrific. Of just that wonderful thing. Now we take it. You whispered ah. Did that feel pleasurable to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was sure great.
I was so nervous.
Say more about that.
I always because you always do it, and I've always been like, oh my, like that was definitely one of those things where your teacher does it and you're like, whoa, that's that cool thing, and I don't think I'll be able to, I know I'll be able to do that. That's just that cool thing Jean does. So when you were like, go, I felt my shoulders go up, and then I was like, I did this, and then everyone had started, so I was like, start, and then I stopped, and I was like, no, just think up, like I'm not trying to sound like Jean. All it is like an amazing template, but I'm not like copying that. So it was really cool. But yeah, I was scared, but then I just remembered I don't need to be scared because it's my own sound, you know?
Yes,
So
that's exactly right. And it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful, you know, and it just felt, people, like it was, the clarity in your tone was exquisite. The lightness in your tone was exquisite, but it felt like it was coming all the way from the soles of your feet. So, you know, it's just it's nothing but a whispered ah. It's not an idea of sound, you know, it's not I have to get into a special place in order to produce sound. Again, that's the practice of whispered ah. I've never heard your sounding so beautiful. It was just exquisite. Any other observations or questions? Yeah, Josh. And then Daph, yeah.
Being present in the space and allowing the energy of the space to come to me, as opposed to me going into myself, it allowed me to not be self-conscious, which then allowed me to not manipulate the sound or the way that it was coming out.
That is, you have said everything there, right? You have said everything that I think, and it goes to Majita also, right? This is the thing that makes us very nervous. You know, we are open. When we, you know, and I understand that, but you're absolutely right that when we manipulate, it's a way of armoring, right? Of trying to control it. And we do that very successfully. Everyone, I mean, that's what I see, right? We get up on stage, we hold. Josh, that was terrific. Daphne, what were you?
My big observation was just the sheer amount of sensation of breath that I felt. In my mouth in particular, I would feel it like a wind going over my tongue. I felt it on the insides of both my cheeks, on the roof of my mouth. I felt it on the insides of my lips, the outside of my lips, the tip of my nose. Like I could just feel exactly where the air was going so clearly that it looked like a weather map, you know?
Well, your voice is so clear. If that's where you always speak and act from, man, I'd buy that in a minute. That is, to me, just exactly what we want. I really mean that. There's such a clarity to it and such an energy and such a personality that's coming through. It's wonderful and completely devoid of anything like Josh was talking about, a manipulation or a making of sound of any sort. Really,
yeah, I completely feel that. It feels like a different voice.
Yeah, I love it.
It feels like the same voice, but just unfiltered, like raw and pure.
And totally focused, Daphne. Totally focused voice. That would carry any place. But I just, you know, it makes me smile because there's just so much in it. See, there's just everything in the world in that voice. Everything that you are, everything possible. You know, I'll sometimes say that. As you know, I say to you, oh, I love that. I could stay in it forever, whatever I say, because there's just something in the sound or one or two words that just conveys everything. But that's what a voice on breath does. You know, you hear it. I mean, listening to it with Olivier, it's just like, oh, he's good. Oh my, he's so good. You know, because it's just that. I think we've gotten, you know, I think we, you know, we always talked about naturalistic acting, and I think all of that is an attempt to get at what we're talking about here, what the, you know, the Brits do so well. I mean, it's just natural to them to be completely in that place. Other observations from that from anyone? Yes, Ina.
This really helped reinforce, because I think I struggle with maybe the wording Josh is able to use, because when I think of like the external space, that's not enough for me to actually kind of be speaking to something external. And just hearing everybody else doing all the exercises we just did, like hearing their voices and thinking, what if I was just in conversation with them and trying to like change and affect them? That really helped me be outside myself, and with that, with my breath, be up. And that it hasn't clicked for me really before.
That is wonderful. Your voice is, again, absolutely beautiful. Other observations from people? Hannah.
I just think I'm just having so much fun with it. I think I am trying to become more conscious about just playing and having fun and taking the pressure away, because I definitely think with school this whole year have fallen into the pressure trap of it. And it's nice to just return to like, what does it feel like to just, like, what does that feel like? And I don't know. And just experiencing it is really, I'm finding fun.
And to the immediacy of without this whole preparation. I mean, this is what I mean by our work is to get you in this place morning, noon, and night. Morning, noon, and night. Olga, my great teacher, she, as I've said to you, we never warmed up with her ever, because she felt, you had to be ready to go. If you were on impulse, you could start any place. She's totally right. We were never there, but was totally right. And that's what you're proving. If you are in this place, you're just there. You're just there all the time. Anyone else? Daphne, did you have something, or your little box lit up? Anyone else have a thought? Closing thought?
I just have a follow-up from that. It's like, I feel like the more I become conscious of it, the more I realize I'm not doing it. Does that make sense? Like the more I realize how far away I've been from this.
Totally.
This time.
Totally. I mean, it's daunting, isn't it? But we've all gone through that. So we've all gone through that. It's an uncomfortable place where the old doesn't work so well anymore, and the new is still unknown to us. And it's an uncomfortable place. George.
Yeah, that was I second that, because I think we've discussed that too. That sort of that you start, once you become aware of what it feels like to be in that place, you start to reject the sense of, I don't want to be that actor anymore. I want to be this kind of actor or singer, or like I can hear it in my voice now, and I'm just like, ugh, come on. But I also, there was something I wanted to share that I was reminded of with you and Jade discussing dance was I read this thing regarding a meeting between Helen Keller and Martha Graham, and Martha showing or sharing the experience of jumping with Helen for the first time, and she put her hands on one of her dancers and experienced that sensation, and I'll send it because I'll butcher it, but it's really beautiful. She talks about the joy of that sense of movement, and there's nothing more pure, I think, than that sense of like, what is the sense of up for someone who's never felt it before, and suddenly they're overwhelmed by it.
Right. And especially, because they were so much in this space, right? I mean, that would give such a full experience of that life, that essence of life. Really incredible work. Any closing thoughts? Any thoughts you want to throw out at me, or you want to write me about going forward? Yeah, Carolyn. Was that a hand raise? No.
I just got back to New York, and I looked at this painting that I have on my wall. And it's kind of hard to see, but it's like a person. It looks like a person. I was looking at it the other day, and I was like, this is the psoas, and these are the arms.
Oh, I love it.
And I was just like, I've had that in my apartment this whole time, and it suddenly makes sense to me.
It's speaking to you. That is just wonderful.
Isn't
Really
that great?
wonderful. So what are your plans? What would you like to do going forward? Or do you want to just write me and let me know? I'm up for anything that you're up for.
We could write throughout the week, anyone who has stuff come up, and then have that be the starting point for next week. If you're still down to do these, this
Yeah.
is so great, Gene. This is unbelievable to
Yeah.
continue having
So
this practice
nice.
with you.
Yeah, because as you know, they're not mandatory, but I'm certainly up for it. I love it. And this
These
is
have
what
been
we do.
incredibly fulfilling.
Yeah.
I wonder if would it be easier for us to send stuff to Hannah and then Hannah send like a comprehensive list, or is that too much? Hannah?
Or you can just send it to me.
Yeah, or
Okay.
Yeah. Don't you think that's good? And then we can go from there. And I think, definitely through the summer we should do a one-on-one, at least
Oh my
one-on-one.
God.
That'd be fun.
that would be amazing.
Oh my God. Gene.
Amazing, Gene. Oh my God.
Seriously.
So, but your work is
fairy godmother.
just incredible.
Wow.
I'm sorry you had such a grueling day yesterday. Better you than me.
Oh my
I'm
God.
far
That's
too
exactly what I need.
feisty. I would just be horrible. I would really have to button my lip far too much. I don't know. You all are better than I am.
James started to get a bit unhinged near the end, I think.
Who left?
James started to unbutton a little bit.
Yeah.
at the end.
Oh, did he really?
It
not
was
pleased.
all
Yeah,
productive.
well, he's
but
Italian too, so there you go.
Oh yeah, very expressive. Lots of this.
He had to get his dogs. Yeah.
Emotional support dogs.
Yeah.
We'll plan for next week unless you have other plans, and then let's discuss with one another about doing a one-on-one or something.
Thank
whenever
you
want.
so much,
All right,
Gene.
kids.
Love you, Gene.
Take
Thank
good
you.
care. Love you
Thank you so
lots.
much.
Love you, Gene.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.